Now, when I talk about these wounds, people get quite upset about it. I talk about a mother wound, I talk about a father wound, and they say, oh, my mother and father were great, did everything for me, were always there for me, put me through school, fed me, clothed me, kept me alive. Yes, of course, they did their best, but that's not to say that they were perfect. That's not to say they didn't make mistakes. That's not to say that that was the best you could get, because there's a couple of things to understand here. That your mother and father, my mother, my father, most of our mothers and fathers come from a generation where you didn't have resources for self-improvement, for improving your mind, improving your body, and to process trauma and pain in your own life. So mothers and fathers from that generation carry pain with them from previous generations or from their own childhood, which then can get transferred onto you, onto us. This is unintentional, of course. Your parents do not, generally, for most of us, do not intentionally want to cause you pain. They do love you, they do care for you, but many of them are caught up in their own pain, their own self-hatred, their own self-criticism, that it comes to the surface whenever a young child is provoking them in some way, acting out, not living in line with your parents' expectations or their vision. You're not following societal norms, and understanding too that your parents are most likely imitating what other parents are doing, imitating what their parents did, and their parents probably even more traumatized from their own lives and their own experiences. There is such a thing as generational trauma, where trauma is passed from generation to generation. So our parents are closer to the days of civil war in Ireland, for example, closer to the famine, closer to the atrocities of Northern Ireland all those years. These things do have an impact, and it's not their fault, because what could they do with it? If you went to see a psychologist back in the 70s, 80s, you'd be seen as a fucking psycho. I've gone through a psychologist. Many people, I feel, everyone out there should go through some form of therapy at some point in their lives. But of course, there's a stigma, there's a cost, and there is the opinions and criticisms of others. So your parents usually just get caught up in their own pain and their own insecurities, and that's transferred onto you. And this pain, it becomes a wound that we carry with us potentially all of our life. And the last thing many of us want to do is reflect back and blame our parents for anything that they did or didn't do in our own lives. This is where the sensitivity comes in for a lot of people. You know, they're good people. Of course they're good people, but they're still people in pain. And you've been carrying their pain. They've transferred that pain over to you. This is not about blame. This is about understanding. And a great exercise to do is to go back and stand in your parents' shoes as you today, as you being the adult. So instead of your mum or your dad standing over you, criticizing you, punishing you, hearing all these words that just embed a further level of shame, you go back as your adult version and you're talking to your child self, your 3-year-old self, your 5-year-old self, whatever that instant is. What would you say to this boy? If you've seen him as he was back then, what would you say to him if you were his parent now? What did he need to hear that he didn't receive from his mum or his dad? And that can be quite an emotional journey, because you're going back, you're reliving past experiences to know that it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault.